Imagine glam, neutral, bold, and everything in one palette. Hi, welcome to the Art Up, a place where we do enjoy some practical versatility. I am so excited to finally get my hands on this palette from Glaminatrix Cosmetics. Welcome Nocturnal Palette, mini version. This is not the latest release from the brand. I think this is actually one of the earliest drop that Glaminatrix Cosmetics had. So why did I get one of the earliest palettes instead of the latest? Just look at this color story. You can go neutral, colorful, glam, very bold, and neutral, and this is within one palette. If I ever design my own palette, will be very similar color story. It was practically calling my name. Another reason why I got this palette is because of this shade Night Vision. I believe that it is a very close dupe to one of the shade from Pat McGrath's Blitz Astral Quartz. I think it's called Nocturnal Nirvana. It is the green one. I think it is called VR Emerald. Very interesting how both palettes have the same name and I'm drawn to the same shades. I love those kind of greens. This is warm green sparkle that I actually don't have in my collection and I was lusting over it for such a long time. So whenever I managed to get this palette, I was like over the moon. One thing that I loved immediately about the packaging is the fact that, first of all, it's not suede, it's faux leather, which is very tactile, very pleasant. The second is that all the pens are magnetic, so you can very easily put them out, and the names of the shades are engraved. Not just a sticker, actual engravement. I was an oh, this is the first time I've seen something like this, and I do like the touch because as a person who loves to create my own custom eyeshadow palettes and loves to mix the eyeshadows, it's so nice to not lose the sticker and have the actual name engraved at the back of the pen. This is the first brand where I've seen something like this to be done because ColourPop doesn't do even stickers on their eyeshadows in 9-pen palettes. This actually makes me believe that some of my ColourPop eyeshadows are so wrongly misplaced, but they are settled in beautifully as if they belong to that palette. So what will you do? Speaking about ColourPop, I've noticed that the size of the pens of this Nocturnal mini palette and ColourPop's 9 pens eyeshadow palettes are the same. That means that you can easily mix and match the eyeshadows between the two palettes, making customization and creating your own palette so easy and super fun. Without further ado, let's dive into shades, swatches, and makeup looks. Upon first glance, I can see that shimmers have two formulas. One is more smooth, more evenly dispersed, while the other is chunkier, more intense, more sparkly. Nevertheless, both of them look stunning on your eyes. Even now, after playing with this palette, I can see that shimmers are definitely the star of this palette. My biggest concern was that Milky Way would be a very close dupe to Trinket, a glitter multichrome from Clionadh Cosmetics that I already have in my collection. They both look very similar side by side because they have the same, I would say, tangerine orange base and a lot of sparkle. But thankfully, the sparkle is what sets them apart. Trinket leans more blue and silver sparkle-wise, while Milky Way is more greenish. I won't lie, I was thrilled to see that difference. Next is Night Vision, a shade I was especially excited about. I've always craved a green like this. I even considered buying that Pat McGrath's quad specifically for that shade, and finally, I have it. Let me know if they are actually as similar as I believe they are. In the pan, this shade looks purely green, but whenever you start tilting it, you will see a very graceful and very gorgeous shift from cold brassy brown to warm green. For the look that I created with this eyeshadow, I used Danessa Merrick's Color Fix in the shade Exposed as my base, and they paired perfectly. The green sparkles in the shade are evenly distributed, giving it very even, very smooth, and super sparkly finish. It's definitely a standout green in my collection, though I am planning to grab Ansel Rain palette Flower Moon, and I do know that it has a lot of green, so maybe I will have some overlapping. Fingers crossed that no. Moving on to Witching Hour. By the way, I just love the shade names in this palette. I think they are so appropriate, so fitting, and so easy to remember. Anyway, getting back to Witching Hour. It is a plum purple matte, which actually is on a sheer side. I am personally used to more intense, bolder pigmentation, something like you can get from Blend Bunny. So the sheerness that I found in this palette really surprised me. But with that being said, it is actually buildable. So the palette is great if you like to build up the intensity of your shades. One more interesting thing that I found upon further inspecting my collection is that Decadent from BH Cosmetics Blueberry Muffin is very close dupe to this shade. In the pan, they might not look alike. One is darker, one is maybe slightly lighter, but swatched, they are very, very close. Decadent leans slightly more purple, while Witching Hour has less blue and more, I would say, warmth. It was very surprising to find that out. The next one is Luna. I'm wearing this shade actually today. In terms of formula and consistency, it's very similar to Milky Way. It is super sparkly and eye-catching. This shade features a semi-translucent, darker base with a lot of stunning blue and silver sparkles. The closest shade that I have in my collection is Blitz Amethyst from Pat McGrath's Subversive, but that one is definitely less shiny and less impactful, while Pat McGrath's shade has more opacity and a kind of hint of purple shimmer and blue to purple duochrome shift. Luna is definitely sparklier. Based on swatches, Luna definitely steals the show with a sparkle. But now, after I finished this makeup look, I thought that these two shades are created for layering. You can layer Blitz Amethyst and then top it with Luna. It will be cherry on the top. Now let's talk about fog. I mentioned before that my collection is lacking good yellow, so I was very thrilled to add this shade to my collection. In the pan, it looks like mustard yellow, and once I swatched it, it transformed. While blending out, it revealed brighter yellow, like canary, I would say, undertones. I personally wasn't expecting this kind of shift, and luckily for my collection, it was a pleasant surprise. Next is Gloom. I had high hopes for this shade. I thought it would be perfect for blending and for crease. Initially, I thought it's a cool tone brown that would be a perfect substitute for warm tone from my ABH palette. But it leans ochre with very obvious yellow undertones. I don't have anything like this in my collection, and it is a welcoming addition, but it's something I didn't expect from this shade. Moving on to Obscurity. This is a soft lavender, which I was really excited to get into my collection. I recently DIYed a shade like this because I was missing it in my life. Though I had a sneaky suspicion that it might be very close to Cheat Day from BH Cosmetics Blueberry Muffin. But actually, it is lighter and more cool toned, meaning it's unique, it's something I don't have, and something I will definitely get a lot of use of. Now for Murky. The name had me expecting something muted, but actually it is a bright mustard green. I compared it to Tiki from Nomad Cosmetics and Water Lily from Cosmic Beauty. But Murky falls perfect between the two. It's brighter than one and darker than the other. Let's talk about Dusk. The texture is very similar to Night Vision, but the base is definitely less even. While Night Vision has a very smooth, opaque, like semi-opaque base, Dusk has it smooth, but it's blotchy, or it has some patchy spots that are visible only under certain lighting. The sparks though are stunning. Cool pink with intense sparkle. Among my collection, I think I would compare it to Night Creature from Pat McGrath's Versed palette, but Pat's shade is more opaque and has more color, while this shade, the Dusk from Glaminatrix, has more sparkle. Finally, Nightfall. This shade is sheer gray steel blue, and I can confidently say that I have nothing like this in my collection, so I'm very thrilled to use it. I was so excited to try Constellation because it looks stunning in the swatches. It is very graceful brass with a kind of cool toned gold that is super shiny. Usually I'm not a fan of golds, they are not my favorite ones, but this shade definitely won me over. And if this shade is one of the main reasons why are you eyeing this palette, here is the tip how you can dupe it at home. You will need some Cliona shades for that. Use any brown pencil as a base. Layer it with Auric from Cliona Cosmetics and then finish dusting with Line of Queens. Make sure you do not put too much of it because you will get a very strong gold shift. The result is an almost spot on dupe. Lastly, we have shadow. It is a solid black matte. It is okay, it performs nice. One thing that I also want to mention is that these eyeshadows have a little bit of kickback. So if that is a concern for you, make sure that you keep that in mind. Overall, this palette has been an amazing addition to my collection. It filled out the gap that I had, like adding some yellows and rounding up my murky greens. The color story is a good working all-rounder, but it is not as simple. Maybe that's just my thing, but when I started swatching mattes, they do look different to what I expect to see from the pans. Maybe it's just me, hi, I'm the problem, but if you have this palette, tell me if you have the same thing or maybe it's just my vision is blurred. One thing for sure that I can say is, for me, the sparkly shades are definitely the standout in this palette. Are there any shades that you liked? Once again, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for spending your day with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.